The committee will come to order. Will commissioners, staff, and guests please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Limited public comment. This time, any member of the public wishing to address the board may do so for up to 3 minutes.
This on?
This.
Jim Brown, Supervisor, Hastings Township. The ongoing voter counting fraud situation with the Berry County Sheriff Dar Leaf is a good example of a waste of time, effort, and taxpayers' money. The FOIA request to our township and denied by our attorney is a good example. Another example of the unnecessary escalation of this situation is now happening in Irving Township. How that will end is anybody's guess. In the meantime, our township has legitimate bills to pay, but this expense should be paid by the Sheriff's Department or the Berry County General Fund as determined by the Berry County Commissioners. Unfortunately, the decision by the chairman of the Berry County Commissioners, Ben Geiger, to refuse the request to put the FOIA payment up for discussion on the meeting agenda today is inexcusable. At the very least, all of the commissioners should have had the opportunity to express their own opinion or appeal on this request. That is what the taxpayers elected them to do. With more elections coming up, it is extremely important that our voting system remain fair and accurate and not subject to question by one individual who didn't like the outcome.
Thank you.
With that, I'll leave you. One last comment. You're going to do the budget today. I would highly suggest that you put a line item in there for legal expenses for next year. I think you may need it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further public comment?
Hi, my name is Jillian Foster. I'm a resident of the City of Hastings. I am the Director of Community Engagement at the Berry Community Foundation, and I just wanted to bring forward a program that Leadership Berry County with the Thornapple Arts Council and the Berry County Chamber and EDA are putting on. It's called Courageous Conversations. In a very divisive world, and in fact our community, as you all know very well, I watch the meetings every week from my office, but everything is pretty divisive, and so we want to bring difficult conversation topics to light in a civil way. So our first one is tonight at 6:30 to 8 p.m., and then they're going to be next Tuesday, the 11th, and then the Tuesday after that, the 18th. And we have local speakers. Johnny DeMag, the owner of Left Field Coffee, is our first speaker, and Sarah Siswerda from Pierce Cedar Creek Institute is, sorry, I should mention, Johnny's talking about LGBTQIA allyship. Sarah's talking about environmental justice, and Carson Tuller is a nationally renowned speaker on disability advocacy. So I wanted to invite everybody here to come and have courageous conversations about issues that do affect Berry County. And you can register online, or you can check out the Leadership Berry County Facebook page to find out more information, and I'll leave these here if anybody's interested. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further public comment?
Larry Bass, Carlton Center. First off, I took a look at the supplemental budget that was passed by the legislature and signed by the governor this year. And I was stunned to find out that there was $1 billion in grants in that budget that were granted. for such essential things like $300,000 for a Taylor, Michigan Little League team, $2 million to develop a curling facility in Traverse City, $15 million going to a ex-chairman of the State Republican Party, Bobby Shostak, for development that hasn't even been permitted yet. Consequently, I think that this county, even though I do know that we do some grant writing here, I think we really should put an emphasis on finding out what grants are available for various projects and strongly move forward to acquiring grants for those. I see no reason why we can't do that if we don't have. Manistee County has a population of about 23,000, and they have a full-time grant writer. If they can do it, there's no reason why we can't do it. Also, I'd like to bring your attention to there's 3 bills. Bob Vandermaal talked about them last week. There's SB 429, SB 430, SB 431. These bills take away the ability of the local planning commission to control authorization for mining in the domestic areas like Berry County, like we have one, Miller Road, and take it back to the state. And that's really all we need is do we have more state involvement in local issues. Okay. Following that up, I spent about 5.5 years trying to get the toast regulation repealed. And finally, thanks to the commission and the health board, we were able to accomplish that. It was a unanimous decision here. House Bill HB 6101 was just released on the 22nd or the 27th, I forget which. But that looks like it was written by our former environmental health director at Bedhead, at the Berry Eaton County Health Department. Okay, it's almost verbatim through there. There's been no activity on it. I would like everybody here to contact your senator and your representative and express your feelings about having a state. This will be run by the state. This will be run by the EGEL organization. And I looked at the fiscal impact that this would have, and it said House Bill 6101 is likely to increase revenues for the Department of Environmental, Great Lakes, and Energy. The bill provides for EGLE to realize a revenue increase through the creation of a septic tank evaluator registry fee schedule. The bill is unlikely to affect costs or revenues for local governments. So I'd like you to contact both your senator and your representative on this, especially you folks, because like we didn't work 5.5 years to have this thing come back and haunt us again on the state level. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there further public comment?
Good morning.
Morning.
Sharon Zabrowski, Vice Chair of the Commission on Aging Board. Everyone knows as we age, we slow down a little. Obviously, you saw that. So it shouldn't be a surprise that the COA's spring cleaning came this fall on the United Way's Day of Caring. Now, why would the COA need cleaning, you ask? Isn't it kept clean? Well, of course it is. But just like your house needs spring cleaning, so did the COA. The flower beds needed weeding and put to bed for the winter. The window trim needed to be scraped and then to be repainted. And the windows, of course, then washed. But before that could be done, some small trees that showed up out of nowhere had to be removed. Why is it that one job always seems to lead to another? Well, onto the daycare's outdoor patio, which was cleaned and had some rearranging done. Oh, they were on a roll then. Medical equipment that the COA rents out was looked over with eagle eyes and rearranged. Storage areas were next in line, and they were gone through with a fine-tooth comb. You know that saying, oh, I might need that someday? Well, that fine-tooth comb took care of that. Now, while all this was happening, the COA was in full swing. Meals on Wheels delivered 150 meals, and about 50 seniors were served at our dining centers. Daycare seniors were being well cared for, as always, and a support group was hosted. The seniors of Berry County and the COA board members want to say a big thank you to the United Way volunteers and the COA staff for all the work they did. They are the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further public comment?
Going to give you an update today. So we had some pretty good news. We're looking at putting 3 people through police academy, and state come on out with a grants that'll pay for the academy and $4,000 towards wages. So we'll be bringing that to you guys in a regular formal way here in a little bit. And next academy starts in January. The people all have to pass a mental, physical, and reading, writing exam first too. So we got that ball rolling. And any other questions for me while I'm here?
I don't have any questions.
It's been very difficult recruiting in law enforcement and corrections. And I think I said it before, it's like a knife fight between agencies trying to keep and retain people and so on. So anyways, this is good news. Hopefully we get some good.
I do have a question.
Sure.
It's related to school truancy. Do we have an individual from the sheriff's office assigned for truancy issues?
We do. She's off on.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, that's what I need to know. Any other questions? Thank you, Sheriff.
All right. Thanks.
Is there further public comment?
Good morning, Joel Ibbotson, Rutland Township. What I'm going to say is probably not popular to a few people, but that's fine with that. We spent over 100 hours looking into the election in 2020, how the process was handled, so forth, and we would have spent more time in it, but I think we hit that point of diminishing return. We're pretty confident that the results we came up with were correct, and that was in Berry County, we had a very free and a very fair election. If I were to try to sway an election, Michigan would not be my choice of a state to pick, especially a tight-knit community such as Berry County. And without going into the details on that, I'd just like to spend some time commending our county clerk, Pam Palmer, and also Robin Hawthorne, the clerk for my township, Rutland. They both spent hours with me working on this. Aaron Gross as well. If you want to see the results of that, there were a few things I wish I had included, but you can go on to our Facebook page and you can view the election integrity form that we put on. Does that say that there weren't any problems with Wayne County? I'm not going to tell you that because I personally think there were. But as far as Berry County is concerned, I think we're clean. And I believe that I have the authority to say that given the research that we've done. Additionally, something unrelated, as far as deputy retention, I really hope that this board comes back and looks at the retirement age of deputies in Berry County. I believe that we're at 60 years. I personally think that is a huge liability to have people working up to that age. I think that needs to be revisited. I think that needs to be lowered. I think that needs to be done sooner than later, especially with the climate, what it is today for the environment that they're working in. So with that, thank you.
Thank you. Is there further public comment? Hearing none, we'll move ahead. Now we'll move into interviews for the Department of Health and Human Services Board. We'll start with June Bearhart. June, I don't think I pronounced your last name right.
No, that's okay. June Barrett.
June Barrett. Well, June Barrett, thank you for interviewing with us today. You currently serve on the Department of Health and Human Services Board. So first I'll let you have a couple of minutes to speak on your background, what you've enjoyed doing on the DHS board, why you'd like to continue, and then we'll open it up for questions. So the floor is yours, June.
All right. My name is June Barrett. I've been a resident here, Berry County, graduated from Hastings High School in 2003. My husband and I have resided here in Hastings, and we have 4 kiddos that all go to TK. I have a background working in social work. I started off working at the Secretary of State right here in Hastings while I was obtaining my degree, and I've worked through the foster care system with Bethany Christian Services, as well as youth guidance, foster care and adoption, processing adoptions. So I have quite a bit of extensive background working with DHHS and understanding kind of what's going on there. I was also employed most recently at the Berry County United Way. That was kind of a 2-part job where I was able to understand what is going on in our community as far as housing, and also understanding what the needs in the community are, all the way from the elderly population down to people just graduating high school that need help with community resources. So I worked with them from as far as budgeting to getting assistance on utility bills, all the way up to trying to help them find housing. So those 2 pieces twofold together, with having a background in social work and working right here at the United Way, I feel make me a great candidate to be on the board for DHHS and Thornapple Manor. Thornapple Manor recently just opened the Harvest Point at Thornapple Manor for some assisted living there, and we're very eager to get the doors open and hopefully get some population moved out of the housing, the low-income housing, and get them where they need to be so that they're best cared for. So I really enjoy being on the board for the past couple years. I feel like my opinion as a now stay-at-home mom, somebody who greatly cares for the community, the people here, I believe my input and my opinions have been valued. The board also has Brad Johnson, he's an accountant, and then Chelsea Foster, who is also the president of Commercial Bank. So I feel like I round out the board as a group, and being a young female, I feel that my opinion has been valued, and I'd like to continue on that board.
Thank you. We'll start questions with Commissioner Campbell.
I really don't have a lot of questions because I actually have the privilege of serving on the board with June, so I know her as a fellow board member that's taught me a lot of the ropes myself there, and the sentiment from the rest of the board members is obviously she's been a great one to work with, and hopefully we continue to do so.
Thank you. Commissioner Jackson.
Good morning, June. Being a member on the board for a couple of years now, do you see an opportunity for something that we need to move on or advance on? Are there things that we're missing that maybe we could do a better job with?
So most recently, we've had 2 turnovers in directors. So DHHS recently had a new director, Noelle Blair. She took over for Mr. Tim Click. And most recently at Thornapple Manor, we also had Don that retired, and Becky has also stepped in for them. So right now, I feel that we are settling back in with new directors. I feel like they both have a very good perspective as to what is going on in our community. We have identified some small areas where we want DHS to be more involved in our community, and they have done amazingly well at listening to us board members and getting themselves out there. DHS employees recently served on the United Way Day of Caring, which I was very instrumental in encouraging them to do, just to have that involvement in our community. While I worked there, Day of Caring is very, very important to getting out in the community, and so it was great to see them do that. Thornapple Manor has also done that as well. I think Becky has some ideas as to where Thornapple Manor needs to go, but I think right now we're going to stay focused on finding the employees that we need at the nursing home, as well as getting the Harvest Point assisted living up and running and getting some good footing. So right now I think we're on a good page, and we just need to kind of stay steady and keep moving forward.
Thank you.
Yep.
Vice Chair Connor.
Thank you very much for applying again. David's question kind of was the same thing that I was going to ask, what your biggest challenge was right now. So thank you very much for reapplying.
Commissioner Gibson.
Yes, I served on that board with June, and I thought she was a good fit for that board. Thank you for applying. I have no questions.
Thank you.
Commissioner Smelker.
Thank you for applying, June. Have you been able to attend the majority of the meetings?
Yes, I've been in attendance for all of them.
Very good. And have you met with people and extended your knowledge of DHHS beyond meetings?
Very much so. Noel and I know each other personally, and we communicate outside in the community as well. Our children attend at TK. As far as extending my knowledge, yeah, I'm pretty vocal in the board meetings. If there's something that needs to be said, I don't sit back. So, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Commissioner Getty.
My questions have been answered as well, but I especially appreciate your efforts in getting involved in the community because that really has a lot of benefits, both for DHHS and for volunteer efforts. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, serving on the DHHS board, it's clear that you dig into what's going on, really familiarize yourself with the issues. Where are our weaknesses?
Our weaknesses in
What can we do better on?
Berry County, we need to find foster homes, foster parents. We need to figure out who's available, even for a short-term placement. I've been the foster care worker that has a kiddo, and we cannot find a home. Berry County needs to step up. We need to just ask some more questions because it's probably not as hard or as difficult as you think. There are hard points of it. However, I think we do have a good support system in Berry County. Berry County is partnered with Allegan County. So the resources between the two counties, we can do better at finding homes. Yeah, I mean, just so that we don't have kids sleeping in a DHHS office.
Does that happen?
That does happen, and that has happened recently in the last 6 months. So especially with the teenagers, juveniles and stuff like that. The juvenile detention centers, during COVID, that was a tough time. We didn't have places to put kids. So, and I think during COVID, that really did scare people about wanting to open their home to foster kids. But we need to realize, these are just kids. Their parents need assistance, they need help, and if we can't help the kids so that the parents can get the assistance, we're just becoming a barrier.
So we have children that live in unsafe homes, sleeping in government offices, waiting for help.
Yes, we have.
What is the solution that you and the board are wrestling with now? Because clearly this is at top of mind, and I appreciate your the speed at which you answered this. What are we supposed to do about this? What can we do?
DHHS does do a good job at hosting events where people are able to come in and talk to the licensing team and figure out what it is, what your part would be as far as when you open your home. What are the rules, the regulations? What would you have to participate in? There is a licensing process. They do a good job at hosting those events. It's just I don't think it's talked about enough in our community, what the need is and when those events are held. So that's where I think we need to do better at that. Thankfully, Berry County does not have a ton of kids in care. The number was down during COVID. However, it's a sticky situation, and we don't want our Berry County kids getting placed in Grand Rapids, getting displaced over to Lansing or Battle Creek. Those surrounding counties, that's not Berry County. Berry County kids need to stay in Berry County because that's what they're familiar with. They're familiar with our school system, their support systems at school. So we need to really work on that.
This is very sobering. I did not know this was an issue. Any other questions from commissioners? Appreciate your application.
Thank you.
Next, we have Rebecca Sabo. Good morning, Rebecca.
Good morning.
Thank you for applying. We will give you a couple minutes to introduce yourself and share with the board why you'd like to serve, and then we'll open it up for questions. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. My name is Rebecca Sabo. My background is in nursing. I worked in the clinical nursing world up until 2019 when I started my role at Grand Valley State University. My motivation to serve in the county is that I've worked for a few different health systems, but I did work for a community hospital for 6 years. And my passion or thoughts is to invest in the local community and seek to bring resources to the local community, especially smaller communities, where sometimes we can have focuses on larger cities and the healthcare systems and built out in larger cities. And having care in your own environment is part of what brought me back to this community specifically. In Michigan, when we lived out of state for 6 years, moved back in 2019, and I liked the fact that we had a local hospital here in Hastings. I had school systems to support my children, as well as a lot of providers built out in the community, and Thornapple Manor being right here to offer care all the way through the lifespan. So my reason that I am interviewing and applying for this position is simply to give back to my community. COVID delayed probably some of my goals to get involved in the community more with all of those adaptations that were needed. But this is my goal with my studies and everything, is to give back to my community, the local community, and bring healthcare resources to Berry County.
Thank you. Start with Commissioner Campbell.
Morning. Thank you first for applying, of course. I noticed on the app here that only virtual meetings would be workable for you between 8 and 5. And I know that this group normally meets at 1 o'clock. Is that something that may change in the future for you, or is that pretty set that way?
Well, I was provided more information on the meeting times of when and where, and so I am able to be in person for the meetings.
Oh, okay.
I understand they're on Wednesdays at 1 o'clock or
Correct.
whatever. Yeah, so that was when I was applying with no real basis for what was entailed, so I felt that being a little more honest on the limitations would be best.
Okay, thank you.
Go to Commissioner Getty.
Your experience is impressive, and your willingness to serve in the county. We appreciate capable, competent individuals stepping up to serve. So really appreciate that. Have you attended any of the meetings?
I've not attended these meetings, but I am a firm reader of the paper. And I actually wasn't getting it for a couple of weeks, and I wanted to make sure that I got it because I do like to read the minutes and stay up with everything as well as I can. I do know that I am pursuing graduate studies right now, and so maybe being in person for some of these events all of the time is not doable, but making sure to keep up with what is going on in the county is important. And during COVID, I did volunteer a couple of times when I could with the health department as a nurse, just to try to give back.
Thank you.
Commissioner Smelker.
I have no questions, but thank you very much for applying.
Commissioner Gibson.
I have no questions. Thanks for applying.
So would it be fair to say you are good at educating and communicating?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do think that that is really important, knowing your resources and maybe thinking outside the box for some of resources as well are a couple of skills that I really expanded upon working for Grand Valley State University.
Great. Well, definitely you have a lot of vacancies here at the county. And would you be interested in serving on a different board if the Board of Commissioners does not recommend you for appointment to this one?
Yes, I would.
We don't want to break your heart, but we have a lot of opportunities here.
No, I would be open to that. I definitely appreciated my counterparts' take on the DHSS side of things, and coming from that social work background. So she is bringing a lot of strengths as well. I would want her to also be very involved in the county.
Well, thank you for your application. We'll make a decision very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. What? Oh, I skipped Commissioner Connor.
And Jackson.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's all right. Story of our life.
Vice Chair Connor.
again about, can you or can you not attend those 1 o'clock meetings?
I can, yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure on that. Thank you for your application. Appreciate it. Everything else was pretty much answered.
Okay.
Just wanted to clarify.
I concur. I appreciate your application. That's an impressive resume. We would love to have you working on, if not this board, boards within the county, because it's admirable, your willingness to invest time and serve and make our community a better place. So we're always looking for people with that spirit, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is that everyone? Okay.
All right, we'll move ahead into interviews for the Community Mental Health Authority Board. If there's no objection. All right. Hearing none, we'll begin the interviews. Kristen Lawball. Good morning, Kristen.
Good morning.
Appreciate you applying. We're going to give you a couple of minutes to introduce yourself, share with the board and the public why you'd like to serve, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Perfect, good. Well, I'm a lifelong resident of Hastings along with my husband. I'm a recently retired teacher, so I'm trying to find some ways to give back to the community. We have 2 daughters, both of whom actually work in the healthcare field, one in the emergency room and another one actually in a mental health hospital. So I have some awareness there. I think I really want to learn more about our resources and in the community, and I want to help raise some awareness about mental health along with those resources in Berry County. I think there continues to be a stigma around mental health, and we as a county need to work to alleviate that and make resources easier to access for all. So I'm looking for a way to serve and raise awareness.
Great, thank you. We'll start questions with the commissioner that serves on the board, Commissioner Getty.
I believe my name is Smelker.
Can you switch?
You switched it, yeah. She took health department and I took mental health.
Oh, we did switch.
Yeah.
Somebody down there is going to ask a question.
Got it.
I think it's John Smelker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Have you attended any mental health meetings?
I have not, no.
And do you, I believe that's all the questions I got because you answered my next question about having contact with anyone, and you have a daughter that works in.
Yes. Yep.
Thank you very much for applying.
You're welcome.
All right, that's the first of 7 commissioners. Move on to Commissioner Gibson.
I have no questions. Thanks for applying.
Move on to Vice Chair Connor.
I read your application, and since this was public, there's that 51%. Do you understand that the 51% of the board has to either be a consumer or a family member of the board? Is that right?
There are specific requirements that the law has for the membership.
Do you want to address that, or? I mean,
I will address it.
Okay.
I'm not going to put the applicant on the spot.
No.
The law does require that members of mental health board fall into 3 different categories, either general public, a family member associated with somebody that has utilized mental health services, or a primary consumer. So to apply, or excuse me, for the board to appoint, they would have to specify which of those 3 the applicant or the appointee goes under. Am I right, Rich?
That's correct.
All right, we got one right today.
So after reading your resume, I think that you would be a good fit.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you haven't attended any? What made you want to apply for this?
I think finding a way to serve and seeing the need in the community for mental health services and raising that awareness. So, yeah, looking for some ways to give back in retirement.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jackson.
Have you served on other boards before?
Not public boards. I've served with church and, school functions and that sort of thing.
Okay,
So.
awesome. Thank you. Appreciate your application.
Commissioner Campbell.
I have no questions. I'd like to thank you for applying and being aware that mental issues are ongoing with almost everyone now, and we're all involved in it, and it seems to be a growing concern. I'm just real thankful that you're willing to be there and help with that.
I agree. Thank you.
The last question, because everyone has asked, no, you haven't asked a question. Commissioner Getty. I usually have a list of who I've asked questions to, and I didn't prepare it this morning. So, Commissioner Getty.
Thanks for applying. I think you would, being a retired teacher and your experience with students over the years, I think you would bring a good perspective to the board, having served on it for a time, and then now John Smelker is the representative. But yeah, I appreciate you being willing to offer that perspective on the board. Thank you.
You spoke about stigma. What are some ways that we can eliminate stigma around mental health?
That's a good question. I think a lot of dialogue and that awareness and making things easier for people to access. I think availability to access is an issue. And so if it's easier to access and you don't feel bad about reaching out for those services, I think that would help. So.
Great. Are there any more questions? Thank you for your application. We'll make a decision soon. Would you like to take a short break, Commissioners? I would. If there's no objection, we'll take a 5-minute recess. Hearing none, we are at recess.
Grab a cup of coffee, Ben.
Excitement in the life of Bruce.
we'll ask. Good, David? Board will come to order. So, Commissioners, would we like to decide on appointing applicants now or take up other business?
I just soon decide now. I personally would nominate June
Okay.
for,
What are the board's wishes?
I would
I'll
support.
second that.
Okay. I'm going to read it.
nominate, oh.
So, motion by Smelker, supported by Jackson, to recommend to the Board of Commissioners following interviews approval to reappoint June Barrett to serve on the Department of Health and Human Services Board for a 3-year term beginning on November 1st, 2022 and expiring on October 31st, 2025. Is there discussion?
The only discussion I would have is I really appreciate Rebecca putting in. I think she's qualified also. But
I agree.
But June has been on for 2 years, and I believe she deserves her.
June has immersed herself in the operations of the DHS board.
Hopefully, we can get Rebecca to put in for something else.
So I did ask the administration office to poll the current vacancies or the upcoming vacancies for our boards and commissions. We have one position on the Building Authority, one position on the 911 board, 4 positions on the COA board, one position, actually 2 positions on the Conservation Easement Board. One has to be a township official or their designee. One has to be agricultural interest. 2 positions on the Parks and Recreation Commission, 1 on the Road Commission, and 2 positions on the Veterans Affairs Committee. Must be honorably discharged active duty veteran who served during a war or conflict. So we'll be sure to pass this along to Rebecca and encourage her to apply for any one of those.
Should say thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other discussion?
Nope, I think there's a benefit to having June since there is new leadership at Thornapple. Just some continuity is good at this point right now, so I agree with John at keeping June on that board for the next 2 to 3 year term.
Great. Hearing no further discussion, the question before the committee is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners following interviews approval to reappoint June Barrett to serve on the Department of Health and Human Services Board for a 3-year term beginning on November 1st, 2022 and expiring on October 31st, 2025. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. So next we have a position to fill on the Community Mental Health Authority Board. So the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners appointment of Kristen Lawbaugh to serve on the Berry County Community Health Authority Board for a 3-year term that began on April 1st, 2022 and expires on March 31st, 2025.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
That motion is made by Gibson, supported by Getty. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next, we have an item from Jim Yarger. Jim, what do you have for us today?
It's Emergency Management Performance Grant. There's funds, $53,088 that are awarded to Berry County to reimburse for the emergency management coordinator's wages. As soon as they receive the grant agreement, signed grant agreement, and I get the last quarter reports in this week, the check will be issued to the county.
So what specifically does a performance grant cover? I mean, performance is pretty vague, performance of your duties.
There's a work agreement we sign every year, and then I have to give quarterly reports of what's done, what isn't. And so each county or each jurisdiction that has a recognized emergency management department the state divides the pot of funds out.
Great. Any questions?
Yes.
And the second question audit certification regarding lobbying, those are all blank. I mean, I understand.
Those actually get sent in separately. They've already been sent in. They were just, I was in a busy and I didn't take them out of what I sent you guys.
Yeah, Jim can get them by the next meeting, I'm sure.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
We approved flood mitigation, countywide flood mitigation. Seems like it's been pushing 2 years ago. I know they had to put a plan together, a countywide plan together.
You're talking about the hazard mitigation grant to rewrite the hazard mitigation plan?
Yes.
That you approved? I'll give you the short. It's at the state, and they're still in the process of approving it. This is what happened to us the last time.
Okay. Has it been 2 years?
It's been 2 years since we started it. So it's been at the state for, oh Lord, it's been in their process probably for almost a year now.
So our part is done here, the plan's done,
Yeah,
submitted,
the company that wrote the plan, they're still working with the state to get it approved. Yeah, we can have a sidebar conversation about that if you'd like, but there's, in my opinion, there's some issues there at the state, but.
Okay. Thank you for answering the question.
Okay.
Anyone else? Hearing none, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of grant number EMC 2022 EP 00001, State of Michigan Fiscal Year 2022 Emergency Management Performance Grant Agreement, and authorize the county administrator and board chair to sign the agreement.
So moved.
Support.
The motion is made by Smelker, supported by Gibson. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Next, we have Michael Brown. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval to deactivate the Berry County Animal Shelter Advisory Board effective October 31, 2022.
So moved.
Support.
Motion is made by Jackson, supported by Smelker. Discussion. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, everyone. Ken is going to join me as well. This is a request. It comes in working with Ken and Dave, Commissioner Jackson, who serves on the Animal Shelter Advisory Committee. This dates back, I believe, 2010, when it was put in place. And as you recall, we had some, well, you may not if you weren't here. At that time, there was, we were struggling to find a director. We were struggling with, if you may, some of the politics and optics associated with the animal shelter. And the board created this Animal Shelter Advisory Committee to work with the animal shelter and try to build relations within the community with those agencies that the animal shelter interacts with. Fast forward to today, and I believe we have a situation where the department has a good reputation, a good brand, if you may. There do not appear to be the issues that existed at that time. We have a very stable director, and as I understand it, the Animal Shelter Advisory Committee finds themselves having reduced the number of meetings from, I believe it was every maybe 2 months.
Every other month right now.
To having reduced the number because there just isn't the need, if you may, at this time. So this is a request to not to do away with the Animal Shelter Advisory Committee completely. The framework would still exist. It's just a matter of discontinuing it for now, and maybe it will never be needed. Hopefully it won't, but if it ever is, the framework exists and it could be reinstituted.
Discussion. We'll start with Commissioner Jackson. You serve on the board. What are your thoughts?
We've had this discussion the last couple years because Ken has brought some calm waters to the animal shelter where there was some controversy and some issues that needed to be addressed within that department. He's got an executive level leadership that has really smoothed things out, put it on course. We've got a full-time full-time technician now in training. There's a lot of good things happening that way. This is the only advisory committee in the entire county at this point. And for the last year, maybe two, we've tried to find things to do to make the board relevant. And literally outside of fundraising, outside of trying to recruit volunteers or do things, we're having meetings, listening to a director's report. The meetings are about 30 minutes. So good conversation, good discussion, great to see what's happening at the shelter. But it feels like something that just isn't needed. And I can tell with the people who serve on that board, they're almost wondering why they're coming to the meetings when there's really nothing that they can do, impact, change, other than, volunteer and do that. So I think it's a good time to think about transitioning from an advisory board, maybe to creating a Friends of the Shelter board. We used to have, 400 or 500 volunteer hours per month pre-COVID, and we're struggling to get 25 to 50 volunteer hours at this point now. So the number of volunteers from COVID has just been crushed. So there are other things we can look at, but operations at the shelter are in a really good place. Ken can tell you about some of the grants and some of the things that are ongoing, but over the last 3 years, 4 years, how long has it been now?
5 years.
5 years. Boy, you wear it well. So, so 5 years in the improvements that have been made, and I hope next spring maybe we can do an open house and show it off a little bit. So,
Other questions or comments from commissioners?
Does the advisory board, I take it, feels pretty much like you do on this?
yes, we had the discussion at our meeting 2 weeks ago. So.
Okay.
Consensus of everyone, I would say with the exception of Dr. Linda, who I thought was living out of town, is back in town, so she was concerned about, pausing the advisory board at this time. I mean, she suggested going to either quarterly meetings or further reducing meetings, but then when you don't see somebody for 3 or 4 months, you're really just showing up, getting an update and going, so it wouldn't change anything at that point, so.
I agree with the principle of eliminating government when it's no longer useful. My concern here is that we would have a zombie board that still kind of exists that we would have to appoint people to, but they wouldn't meet. Why not just eliminate it now?
We would not intend to continue to appoint people.
What's the difference between deactivating and eliminating?
Well, then you can eliminate that. Maybe it's semantics. So, yeah, and you could recreate it if it's ever needed again. I mean, if we'll hold on to the file, the framework's there, if you may, for some future board if we're no longer around. But I think the idea is that we don't intend to take the file and shred the file as if it never existed. We will leave a record of that what was done and how it was structured, so that when none of us are here, and that if it's ever needed, there's a file on it. So yeah, whether it's deactivate or eliminate, but we're not intending to reappoint people to the board. And that's part of the timing right now as we're headed into the time of year where we would advertise and make reappointments. And we just feel that there's no, if that advisory board's not gonna meet to make those appointments.
What are the board's thoughts, deactivation versus just elimination? One keeps it in hibernation, one eliminates it.
I feel deactivation is the best. That way the paperwork is there and we wouldn't have to go through any long-term stuff to reactivate it if we feel that it's necessary. And I shouldn't say we, a future board thinks it's necessary.
Dave, do you have any thoughts?
Nope. I was in favor of the pause. Just let's try it, and if for some reason there are issues that pop up in the next year or so, then the framework's in place to move, but I'm in favor of deactivating it, not appointing anybody to that board. And Ken and I have built a relationship. I've met Morgan McNutt, and I intend to continue that relationship with the board outside of the fact that there will not be a shelter advisory board in the future, so.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, the question before the committee is to recommend the Board of Commissioners approval to deactivate the Berry County Animal Shelter Advisory Board effective October 31st, 2022. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. The next item, the chair to entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners expanding the focus of the Special Ad Hoc County Facilities Review Committee to include the evaluation of vacant county-owned properties and underutilized space that exists within the current county facilities and make recommendations to the full board on the future use or sale of these properties.
So moved, Jackson.
Support.
The motion is made by Jackson, supported by Getty. Discussion. Commissioner Jackson, I believe this is your proposal?
Yeah, when, just in talking with Michael, and we've had requests from people in the audience mentioning other facilities in the county, and when we looked at what the charge of the current ad hoc committee was for, it was so narrowly defined, strictly just to negotiate with the Lofts project. I mean, that is the only leeway it was. Well, it made sense as we started talking about that, which led us to the Friend of the Court and the old community mental health building and other facilities in the county, that maybe this would be a good time to wrap our hands around all of the properties, vacancies, opportunities, up to and including the COA and the jail. So we can work on that committee on some of those things and bring recommendations to the board in the future.
Discussion. So it's my understanding that under the bylaws and the rules of how county boards operate, this board will terminate at the end of the year, correct? The committee.
Trying to remember when we had the health board ad hoc committee, I thought that went over into the following year.
I believe we did have to renew that ad hoc committee.
No, this sounds like a good idea. There's no sense in not having discussions while we have these interests going around. Just my concern is there needs to be clarity in when the board's scope of work ends. Commissioner Connor?
So when I read this, I wondered exactly what that entailed. What's the scope?
In my opinion, yes, that I don't think we can make any decisions as far as do we want to let applicants in or not. I think the scope of that committee would be to bring recommendations to the full board. We think we should sell this property. We think we should look at utilizing this for lease or rent or whatever the case is, or moving county offices from point A to point B, so.
That's all I wondered, just what the.
It makes sense to me. Currently, we have a very jerky process when it comes to county property. Somebody comes up to public comment, comes with an idea or concern or advocating for a position. The board eventually meets in closed session to discuss some things, and then there is resolution. We heard throughout this last political campaign that people want the county to have a comprehensive plan when it comes to what we're doing with our property. So this is a more business-like approach to have individuals empowered to have the conversations going and to bring it to the board when there's an opportunity to bring a resolution. So it makes sense to me. Michael, when does an ad hoc committee end?
So a couple of things to Commissioner Connor's comments and maybe question. The ad hoc committees by their very nature shall be advisory in nature only.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't make decisions. They're advisory in nature only to the county board. And I don't see that there's anything in the board rules that say that motions, agenda items, committees at the end of the year cease. If they, maybe like the legislature has, or in your case, there isn't anything that I see in the board rules that indicates that
Okay.
it just automatically ceases. The next board can, of course, choose to discontinue it, modify it, change it. But it's not as though the board rules say that the committee structure or special ad hoc committees or anything else cease to exist at the end of the year. It really continues on until the next board makes a change,
Great.
as I read and interpret them.
Well, we're not going to be spending time finding solutions in search of a problem, so we'll let the next board determine how they want to deal with it. Any other thoughts? Hearing none, the question before the committee is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners expanding the focus of the Special Ad Hoc County Facilities Review Committee to include evaluation of vacant county-owned properties and underutilized space that exists within current county facilities and make recommendations to the full board on the future use or sale of these properties. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Nay vote is recorded. Motion carries. We're about to get into the budget. Any objection to taking 5-minute recess? Hearing none, we'll take a 5-minute recess. Committee will come to order. At this time, we will take up appeals to the proposed 2023 budget. First, we have Nicole Like, representative of the Berry County Economic Development Agency. Nicole, welcome.
Thank you. I'm going to try and knock everything off the table while I talk. I move my hands a lot. So I did type out what I was going to say because otherwise I will go off on a tangent and we'll be stuck here all afternoon just listening to me ramble. So my name is Nicole Like. I'm the Economic Development Director for the Berry County Chamber and EDA. Jennifer could not attend today. She wanted me to extend her apologies for not being able to be here. She's actually leading a cohort of stakeholders throughout the community to do asset mapping, to develop a countywide strategy, and to identify collaborative funding opportunities for some of these projects that we know the individual municipalities are working on. I am here today to amend our funding requests for 2023. We are asking for an increase in our funding. This is specifically to help us. We have secured a tool that will help us greatly with our economic development programming. And what we are hoping to do is actually onboard some interns through the STEM Forward internship program to help with the data and marketing research and reporting that we're going to be able to do with this program. The tool is called the Placer Program. We know it has applications within the county for planning and zoning and IT, but it more importantly helps us support the economic community in Berry County by allowing us to produce leakage reports, market gap reports, void analyses, and then actually present customized slide decks so that when we're talking about these things to the community, we can make it in a way that is understandable and not just a bunch of like technical jargon, which sometimes happens with these types of reports. So the STEM program is through Ann Arbor Spark. It is a program that works with colleges and universities throughout the state of Michigan to place internships for students that are specifically in STEM. So we're really hoping that we are able to bring on 3 interns for a full year. The cost would be $6,000.
If I could pause for just a second.
Yes.
For those who aren't familiar, can you share what STEM stands for?
STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math. So these interns are highly skilled individuals. They are finishing up their bachelor's or master's degrees in these programs at universities in Michigan. In order to participate in the program, they have to live in Michigan. So we're really focusing on STEM students that are going to be graduating from local universities that are in Berry County or Allegan County or surrounding us. The program is administered through the STEM Forward program. And so the cost to our organization to onboard these interns is $3,000 per intern per semester. For us, we're hoping to onboard 3 interns over the course of a full year, so 2 semesters each, for a total of $6,000 per intern for the full year. We do not have to do any of the payroll or liability things that are associated with interns. That's all handled through the STEM Forward program, and they also provide a match for the cost of the intern. So while we're paying $6,000 per year, they would also be paying $6,000 per year. So these are really good internship programs. They don't struggle to fill them. Once we get the application online, it only takes a matter of weeks to have those students placed and onboarded. The other thing that this funding will do will allow us to expand our existing staffing so that we can provide stronger support and continue to build out our service network to Berry County businesses. Some of the things that we focus on that we know are directly impacting our employers and their ability to recruit a talent and retain talent is housing, broadband accessibility, childcare, advancing technologies within the manufacturing and agriculture industry. Those are industries that have been especially impacted by employee shortages, and there are tools and technologies that exist that can help make those companies more efficient with the staff that they have without displacing any of the existing staff. That's always a concern when you bring in technology or anything like that. So we're working with them to help overcome some of those shortages that everyone is experiencing across the board right now. We also have relaunched our Tourism Council and are going to be working on some efforts. We know that there's a big opportunity gap for tourism in Berry County. We have a lot of great assets that people just don't know about. So our Tourism Council is working hard to develop a marketing plan. We have a website and some new branding. So the next step from that obviously is the outreach. Placemaking efforts, we are working in Middleville, Nashville, Hastings, Delton, and Woodland on a variety of different placemaking efforts. Those look different from community to community. What works well for Nashville doesn't necessarily work well for Middleville or for Delton, because we live in our individual communities because we like the unique parts of them, right? So we can't take a cookie cutter, one size fits all approach to the activities and initiatives that we're working on in the county. One of the most important things that we work on is our workforce development initiatives. We are in the process of doing our Discover Manufacturing tours. If you're not familiar, we work with all of the school districts in Berry County to bring high schoolers on site to various manufacturers in the county to highlight the different career paths that exist. They don't just get to see the production lines, they get to see the HR, they get to see accounting, they get to go into shipping and receiving, into the engineering departments and everything. So it's a really great opportunity for our students to see that there's a lot of career paths that exist in Berry County. They don't have to leave to have a successful career that will sustain them and provide them the comfort that they want in their lives. We also have just launched a new pilot program, I'm really excited, called Tour the Floor. This is a program where we bring small cohorts of kids to various businesses. The first one that we did, our pilot program, was actually with Thornapple Manor. And the purpose of this is to kind of highlight the programs or the career paths that exist that are maybe non-traditional. So when we went to Thornapple Manor, front of mine is CNAs, it's nursing. But they also have a huge dietary department, and they also have a huge maintenance department. So we focused on culinary arts students and maintenance students at this program. And if you're interested in learning more, if you want to bring a cohort of students to your own business, just let us know. We do have a video on our website and our Facebook page if you want to check that out. And we're continuing to expand initiatives like that. We're working with the high school in Hastings to launch a Career Quest style Career Fest at the high school. So that'll take place in November. And that coincides with the end of the Discover Manufacturing Week. We also have some other initiatives that we work on. We have our Berry Bucks Shop Local campaign, and then our business attraction, retention, and expansion. We have probably met with more businesses this year to discuss expansion and attraction and things like that than we have in recent years. So we've been very, very busy with that. We have several new businesses that are relocating, that are in the process of opening. And so this funding that we're asking for will allow us to add more staff so that we can focus more heavily on some of these initiatives instead of, kind of being like a jack of all trades but master of none. We want to also be the master of everything that we're doing. I guess it's a bad analogy. So yeah, that's kind of what we're here. We're asking for an additional $20,000 in funding, and that will again go to offset the cost of the interns that we're hoping will administer this program and free up the existing staff to focus more heavily on some of the other initiatives and programs that we're working on. So with that, are there any questions?
So the interns, let me go back. You're partnering with Ann Arbor Spark
Yes.
to
So
facilitate the interns. Will the interns travel from Ann Arbor to Hastings every day?
No, so it's actually a statewide program that exists. Any college student in the state of Michigan is able to sign up, and all colleges that are located in Michigan are able to sign up. So we can target students from Ann Arbor, but we are going to specifically be trying to
I think
get
Dave wants that, right?
get the interns that are in Berry County specifically if we can.
Okay, so Ann Arbor Spark is just kind of the facilitator of the statewide program?
Yes, yep, that's the entity that was given the initial grant funding to seed the program for the whole state.
And how much money would an intern look to receive from this program?
So the way that the program works is it gives us some flexibility. So we can either say that we're going to bring on these interns for $16.50 an hour and X amount of hours until that $12,000 or $3,000 per semester. It would be a total of $6,000 per semester because we pay them $3,000 and then Ann Arbor Spark, the STEM Forward, would match that. So we're able to pay these interns a really comfortable living wage while they finish up their degree. And a lot of times what happens is I think they have like an 86% placement rate, so the interns generally move into the companies that they work for. We're not sure if they're going to come work for us or if they would actually then move on to work with the Placer program as one of their consultants that they hire to work and basically hold the hands of the communities that they're placed in.
And if an intern is assigned to work in Berry County, they can't switch. They're
No.
assigned here the whole semester?
Yes, yep, that is correct.
All right. Other questions?
Are you partnering with other businesses or entities in the county to help facilitate the Placer program
Yes.
and internships?
Yep, we are actually working on the framework for how those partnerships are going to work, and should have that information out in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So if that's something where you'd like to see what that partnership framework looks like, we can absolutely bring that back to another meeting for you.
John, do you have anything?
That was a very good question. I was going to ask that. And in your total budget, does anyone else, who else puts in towards your total budget?
So we have several businesses that make economic development contributions, including Spectrum Health Pennock, Bradford White, Hastings Mutual. We have some smaller level partners, they still are very generous with their money, I shouldn't phrase it that way, with High Point Community Bank, Commercial Bank, Thornapple Credit Union, Greenridge Realty, Miller Real Estate, and a handful of other businesses that have made contributions for economic development efforts, mostly related to workforce development and talent attraction.
That's very good of the private businesses to do that. Any other governmental?
We do have some partnerships with the City of Hastings, the Village of Middleville. There are a couple townships, I believe Yankee Springs Township, Thornapple Township, Prairieville and Orangeville Township also are considered members, but they are economic development partners as well. So we do get some funding from them.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Michael, do you have the funding history for the past 3 years or 5 years for economic development from the county standpoint?
I do.
Isn't that page 22?
It just goes 20, back to 2020.
Page 22 right there. About maybe a third quarter of the way down. Economic development appropriation. In 2020, it was 140, 585. It was 155, 585. 140, 585, 160, 585.
Okay. Serving on that board, if you remember Travis, I thought Travis did a fantastic job with economic development. When Jennifer came in, the bar was pretty high, but I have to say, I think Jennifer's exceeded expectations. She spins so many plates in so many areas that when you look at the president's report, it's pages of capsules of what's actually happened. So, I mean, when you look at our investment in EDA, you are getting your money's worth and then some from Jennifer. I mean, she is I don't know if she's getting any sleep. We are making major strides in broadband, housing, childcare, and Nicole went over several of those things, but those are the three things. And with this Placer AI program that they're bringing on board, can seriously change economic development. So for a small county to compete with Calhoun and Kent and Kalamazoo and some of the other areas out there, potentially is a game changer for us here. So I've seen the presentation. I've obviously seen the great work that Jennifer's been doing in there. I also know that there's a lot of inflation pressures on the county budget right now with wages going forward, pay scales that we've got long-term contracts, but there's some, I don't want to say saber rattling, but there's some pressures, and there's recessionary pressures that I don't even think we know about yet as far as what's coming in the next 12 months. So there's just a lot of things to consider, but if we're going to make an investment in Berry County, this is a good place to make an investment. Now, whether you see it as a $20,000 investment or if you want to do 2 interns at $12,000, I mean, I think there's some negotiation in there, but just from my standpoint, being involved with that board, Nicole's done an excellent job. We're happy you came back with us, and Jennifer has been doing an excellent job. So it's a worthwhile investment if you want to continue to see Berry County grow and continue to develop those relationships with the manufacturing community, the retail community, and what we're doing. So just my thoughts.
Well, I'd never pay an intern $12,000, but it is important to continue the level of work that we're offering to the community. We don't want to fall behind. If businesses and the community has a level of service that they're used to, we don't want to fall behind. I'm intrigued by this proposal.
I guess it's probably in here somewhere, but it's easier to ask the fellow that grew it up. Can you tell us what our balance would be, contingency?
Well, it's not allocated in contingency, but if you look on page,
We can have a more detailed discussion about what we have available after our next appeal. I think that would probably be the most appropriate time for Michael to come up.
Okay, because I see in here projected and then recommended, so, okay.
Is there anything else for Nicole? Thank you.
I just want to say that I think this is a really creative solution by using interns to facilitate. I also sat in on the demonstration from Placer. It is a game changer for Berry County and for businesses, for departments. It has lots of different applications, and having interns on hand to be able to give that service to everybody in Berry County that need it. We wouldn't be able to do it any other way without hiring staff, and I think this is a really creative solution to get those reports out to the people that can use them.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to see a copy of the demonstration, those were recorded meetings. We can share that out with anyone because it is really interesting the way that they use, the way that they're using this technology. I literally could just spend all day doing reports in that program. It's so cool, but then nothing else would be getting done. So
Yeah, I
that's
think it would
what
be
the interns are
beneficial to
for.
see the type of reports and data collection that they would be tasked with. Because in government, we're good at collecting data, but we aren't always good at providing a reason why it's necessary.
Right, or knowing which data to collect. I mean, there's literally, data about like this person that buys this likes to buy blue glasses, or so it's very convoluted. Do we need to know that? No, but somebody might need to know that, and that is having interns that specifically know how to use data, that is their focus. That will give us another advantage with just leveraging this tool even more. It's one thing to give a hammer to a person, it's another thing to give a hammer to a skilled tradesman, right? They're going to use that much better.
What else besides data collection will they be responsible for? Because if you I've had lots of interns over the years, and data collection is fun for a couple of hours, but then they'd like something else to work on?
Yeah, they'll be working a lot actually doing the reporting. The program collects the data, and then they would be actually working with the individual municipalities, program partners to develop the reports that they need. So if you need a foot traffic report for the number of visitors at Charlton Park year over year at the All Hallows Eve event, that intern would be able to sit down and go through with the organization the points of data collected and then turn that into a report and a slide deck that can then be utilized. And all of the data that goes into the program is 2 to 3 days old, so it's very, very fresh. We did a market analysis report several years ago, and it was using the previous year's sales data. So it was over a year old, all the data that we were using, and it was extremely expensive to do that report. This program just does it. So the interns would be working with the communities to identify, you know, are you working on placemaking? Are you working on tourism? Do you want to know what type of housing or amenities should go in this green space? You were talking about, you know, properties with the county. You would be able to say, in this community, there's this type of families that live there, and they really like parks that have swings and trails and flowering trees. So that gives you, as a commission or any commission or board, the ability to make really, really specific data-driven decisions. So you're not just, you know, sometimes when we do stuff, it feels like we're just throwing stuff at a wall and whatever sticks, and then we just go from there because that's what people like. This helps pinpoint that down without having to do any of that running around or guesswork, I guess, that sometimes comes with data collection and reporting.
Yeah, I'd like to see this report.
Yeah, I can send that out. I'll get that out to you guys today.
Any other discussion, questions? Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
The next appeal is from the Commission on Aging. We have Director Zinni here to present the appeal. Good morning. So you are requesting how much of an increase over the recommended amount?
I'm requesting the $31,000 that was denied.
Okay, $31,000, all right. Floor is yours.
All right. So I am here today to appeal the capital expenditures budget appropriations, specifically that denial to allocate the $31,000 towards the replacement of the pitched roof section of the Commission on Aging building. As you're aware, the more than 7-year-old master facility plan identified that the condition of the COA building was beyond its useful life without major reconstruction or remediation of issues. It doesn't surprise anyone that the building is now that much older and those identified problems have become that much worse. The 2015 plan mentioned the multiple roofing systems and how water penetration and leaks were causing many issues in the building. Our organization has attempted to be good stewards of the building. Between 2009 and 2015, we spent over $25,000 in repairs and maintenance to the roofing system, as well as on snow removal to protect the remaining integrity of the roof. When it became apparent that a new building was not in the near future and repairs were no longer sufficient, it was determined that the flat portion, so we have a flat portion and a pitched portion, would need to be replaced. In 2019, the Board of Commissioners did approve those appropriations. They paid over $25,000 for that replacement. Unfortunately, there are now leaks where the flat and pitched portion of the roof meet. This does not fall under the new roof's warranty, as it is not the new roof that is failing. It's actually like the seam spot where the two roofs. Without the additional replacement of the peaked portion of the roof, the investment our organization and the county have already put into this roof may be for naught. We do carry a fund balance of roughly $400,000. That represents just over 2 months of operating cash on our $2 million budget. If you consider that we do have the restricted building fund and what is sitting in that fund, we would have a total of 5 months of cash on hand. With nearly 300 clients relying on daily delivery of food and care, we need that remaining cash on hand to cover emergencies, including the uncertainty of grant funds. We must also consider that utilizing the building monies will mean less that we'll have to put forward towards a new building or a different building or however that looks in the future. This building has significant water damage from the previous roof issues and the foundation issues. realistically, even if money for a new building were to drop in my lap today, we're not going to move tomorrow. So we need to work together to find a way to protect the building that we're currently in so that we can continue our services. And in addition, there's other cosmetic repairs that need to be done. I think, this is me kind of speaking off the cuff, so maybe I shouldn't, but I think that.
We appreciate your honesty. We won't hold it against you.
Thank you. I do think that our board, the COA board and the Board of Commissioners, back in 2015, we really were all focused on a new facility, and we kept thinking, that's coming. And in the meantime, we've let the facility we have kind of fall into some disarray. I would like to make some of those cosmetic repairs, but I'm not going to be able to do that if I don't have the roof monies coming in from somewhere else. So that is part of my reason for making the appeal. I know we're all on the same page, and I know that a new building is still the future goal, but I do have to consider the short term and being able to continue providing programs and expanding our programming. We have a lot of balls in the air right now of some new things we want to do. We've considered new programming, educational programming, health and fitness programming, and I can't do that if I have water leaking. So there were some pictures in here too of some of the cosmetic work, so that was part of my appeal.
So to any future board members that are on this dais or in the crowd, don't buy flat roofs. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. It will come back to haunt you. So these issues have been plaguing the COA since I've been on the board, since Hoot's been on the board. But there was no, I just want to clarify the board's position. I mean, there's never been a promise made to build a new facility.
Nope.
We did go and ask the voters, and they said no. By about 2% more said no than said yes, and we respect the will of the voters. We're aware that the roof has not healed itself, and that significant investment is needed to fix it. So you're asking for $31,000 because you anticipate needing to provide repairs to the roof?
Total replacement. Repairs have been tried. The $31,000 was the quote we received several months ago. So
replacing the whole roof?
Just the flat. I'm sorry. Now I get confused between the flat and the pitched. Yeah, the opposite of what we did before. Sorry. So the flat portion has already been fixed. Now the leaking is between the pitched, where the pitched comes down and meets that flat. So now the request is to replace the pitched and to fix that seaming part.
What are the cosmetic repairs?
Well, from the previous water damage, I currently have an office that has a tray in the ceiling.
Yeah, it looks like a ceiling sink.
Yeah. That's horribly embarrassing. It's cosmetic, I get that, except for the hole in the ceiling of that room. We see clients in that room.
Is the ceiling sink no longer needed?
That's correct. That was from the flat portion.
You're asking for money to remove the sink from the ceiling.
I'm saying that we would be taking that money out of our budget if we could have the roof repairs fixed. So I'm saying that we're also willing to put money into cosmetic repairs. They're needed. The men's bathroom has a hole in the ceiling. There's a lot of little things that add up very quickly. You have to hold the handles down on the toilets. We now have a sign up, please hold the handles down and count to 3. That's not appropriate for a county building. It's just, I would hope that that's not appropriate, I guess, is what I would say. We are helping people, and this is supposed to be a place of, comfort for many of them.
So is it problems with the fixtures or with the sewer? Or aren't you able to answer
So
that?
I can't answer that. I had a plumber come in, they were gonna send me a quote and explain everything, and I never received it, so.
Okay, I'll open up for questions and comments. Mr. Connor.
So
It's about another 400,000.
Another 400,000?
Yes. I want to say it's closer to 4.5, but yeah. And I'm kind of protective of that money at this point because we know that something's going to have to change in the future, so.
What's the cost of a new roof?
That 31,000 was the quote for that portion.
For a pitched roof over all of it?
Yes.
No,
No, the flat.
Oh, all the way across, I don't know. We did not go that far.
yeah.
Is this fix going to be guaranteed?
So I wasn't part of the original quoting process, but that would be my expectation, just like when we fixed the flat portion of the roof, we have a 12-year warranty on it. So yes, I would be looking for something similar. It does not, you're right. My understanding was that this was the only person or company that they could get to come out.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you for your request. We will consider it. All right, Michael, why don't you come up and tell us what we have to work with in this budget?
Good morning. So jumping to page 14 to answer your question, Ben, under 2023 recommended, you'll see at the bottom that there is a positive differential of just shy of 75,000 between recommended revenues and recommended expenditures.
So we have $51,000 in requests today. We have $75,000. Actually, when I say we, I should say this budget will not be in place while I'm in office. It will come into play next year. So this budget has $75,000. What are the board's wishes? How do we think about what do we think about the appeals? Clearly, the roof issue is an issue that we are all too familiar with. The request for funding to compensate interns is a new request that we haven't dealt with.
If I can,
I'm not a roof expert, but my gut tells me if we put a little bitty patch on this roof, it will fail very soon. What do you think, Bruce?
Well, like anything else in life, patching never holds up, so I'm sure there's the need there, and I wasn't here when all of this, 2015 and stuff, but somewhere along the line, we have to make a commitment somewhere, either save what we've got there or move forward. But regardless, they've got some serious issues over there.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, John?
Personally, I guess I would have them take it out of their budget, seeing they got close to 800,000 between the two.
Mm-hmm.
And if they run into problem with that budget later, that's when I think they should come to us. Their board should come to us. Just my thoughts.
What do you think, Hoop?
Nothing at this time.
Michael, is that a potential repair that could be considered for the building rehab?
yeah, it would, that's where I would assign and if you looked in the capital, that's where it was assigned to but not funded from, so yeah.
Okay.
The request from economic development would be a general fund request. There isn't another fund per se for that. That would be a general fund expenditure, but Commission on Aging's would potentially be a building rehabilitation.
You know, I think Commission on Aging has been a good steward with their money. They've got good fund balances, they've got building rehab, or they've got, you know, a future building fund. I wouldn't mind seeing us support them. Maybe, I like John's idea also, but I mean, maybe instead of 31,000 funding it and hold it, maybe we split this with them at 16-ish and let them take some of that out and we fund some of that like we have done in the past. I wouldn't be opposed to that.
Okay, we do this for a millage-based entity, COA. Are we gonna replace 911 roof, Transit's roof, all along? They're all millage-based. And we're starting a precedent here.
Parks as well.
Yeah, and Charlton Park also.
What did we do with Charlton Park? We loaned them the money?
Supposedly.
Back.
Did we loan them the money or did we pay for that?
I believe that was a loan.
I believe it's a loan.
Have they repaid the loan?
No, the loan for the building.
They continue to, so I remember they were making payment on a loan, and then once that was paid off, would continue that and have made repayment and every year. I don't know what the balance is at this point, but they have always made that. It's about 11 or 12,000 a year. What is it? Okay.
Commissioner Connor?
The loan was. Were on the counties. Right. Yes, that's the county paid. We paid for those. Because
If they didn't have a fund balance that would cover it.
The likelihood that this roof will cause an issue during this winter is significant, probable, and the issue of having that old rickety building will remain. I don't have a whole lot of time left on this board, and I would like the county to use all of its resources to find potential solutions. So I'd be willing to vote for this if the COA got investigated and report back what it would cost to have a USDA loan to replace the facility. Investigate every grant opportunity that's out there. We just heard this morning that there are new funds available from the state of Michigan for lots of different initiatives. I'd like the COA board, which I am part of, to come back with possible solutions, just so we can reassure that the next board and the public that we have investigated everything. That's just my perspective.
instrumental on fixing that flat roof. And during that budget cycle, I sat on the COA board and I did ask this board to pay for that because we were hoping to have a millage and get a jail, so that this would tide them over until we got the jail issue settled. Took some flack for that from some of the board members. but that's okay. I still felt, and Dan felt it was right too, so, but this time I think I'm with their $850,000 budget. I think I'm gonna, because we do not have a solution to the jail, and when we get into our budget, you'll see just what's been requested to fix that building. So I'm gonna ask the COA if they can pay for this out of their either fund balance or their building fund.
I think something should be done before winter, before weather gets bad. I don't think they can wait till next year to
They can't.
repair that.
And the taxpayers don't pay commissioners to kick the can down the road so far that the roofs fail without a solution.
With a fund balance like that, why is it being kicked down the road? Why isn't it fixed?
Agree.
What are the board's wishes? Is it inappropriate to extend the same offer to the COA that we did to Charlton Park?
I think the reason you did the offer to Charlton Park is they didn't have the fund balance. They
Right.
didn't have the money to do their repairs. So you really didn't have a choice on that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's pause discussion on this for a second and go to the EDA. What are the board's thought on that? What are the board's thoughts? I think she presented a pretty robust proposal. I'd like to see what the interns would be working on.
I guess it's my turn.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good idea. I would like to see if they could get part of the funding somewhere else from other entities and stuff. So I would definitely go along maybe with half of what they were asking for.
10,000.
And see if they can come up with the other half somewhere else. Or, sorry, Dave, forgot what you said, 2 interns?
2 interns would be 12,000.
Well, I would support the 2 interns.
So 12,000.
With the other entity picking up half the cost, you're getting interns for just a little over $8 an hour. That's pretty hard to pass up. Yeah.
I think we're gonna see return on investment with something like that in the county, and with what I've seen on the demonstration of Placer, it's gonna be quite an effective tool for businesses, for entities across the county. I think it's a small investment for a very large return.
I do too, and in a year's time, we'll see if it was a correct move or not.
Mm-hmm.
Vivian?
No, maybe question is either for David or for Michael. The amount that we do give to, that we allocate to the EDA, what percentage is that of their budget?
Less than 10%.
I can't answer that without pulling up their
I'd
budget.
have to see their
That
budget.
with me.
Understand that's
100.
pretty, I heard that's pretty hard to get, is a copy of their budget.
I would think David could get one.
We can get a number for you.
8.5%. They have a, well, that's
Is
out of
Nicole
our
still here?
out of our allocation.
Cole's over there.
Yeah, no, that if it was 8.5, they'd be at 100 and some thousand, they'd be
Yeah,
a
so-
million or 2 million, so 100,000, I don't think it's that large. I don't have that, I didn't bring that with me.
So are we prepared to vote on anything today, or do we want to mull on things a little bit more and come back at it another time?
I wouldn't mind moving forward on economic development. I
You wanna
mean,
make
move
them-
forward on COA too, I just know my vote.
Do we want to hear what Michael has to say about the budget before we make a decision on giving more money to these requests?
Sure.
I'm happy to walk through the budget whenever you'd like.
I'd like to hear that first.
Okay. So, I'll try to move quickly through it. It is in the form that you should be used to seeing. The first section is the transmittal letter, and the general fund budget, which is the main focus of our budget. This is page 1. Totals 19.6 million and requires a tax levy of 5.2724 mils. Property taxes continue to be our single largest portion of annual revenues, providing 14.1 million or 71% of the total revenue for the year. So our property taxes, very stable form of revenue, but when it's that large, you don't have a very diversified as well source of revenue. So the property taxes are projected, the revenue itself is projected to increase by 3.2% for 2023. Don't mistake that for that's what your property tax bill. This is just in general. The revenue that we get from property taxes is estimated to go up by 3.2%. On the expenditure side, general fund expenditures for 2023 have been recommended at levels that fund current staffing, so wages and associated fringe benefits. And when I say current staffing, current levels of staffing, assuming or projecting for wage increases, benefit increases, and the like for 2023. The budget is dedicated largely to the continuation of current service levels. Any new positions that were requested have been removed from the departmental request and are identified, as I've always done, in the budget under a separate section called new positions. That way you can see specifically where there are new positions and that exist. Past 2 years have certainly placed considerable pressure on the need to maintain competitive wages, something that I don't know that we've seen in many years, if during my career, if you may, this level of inflation in wages and competitiveness for hiring talent. We have settled bargaining agreements out through 2025 with roughly 2% increases annually. That was a good thing. Right now, we're seeing wages outpace that significantly. So one of the things that I think we're going to have to think about for 2023, and it's not built into this budget, is potential wage adjustments. I continue to receive pressure from department heads, elected officials, staff that are searching the market and finding more competitive wages out there. I don't have a solution at this point, but do want to make note that it's a pressure that we haven't seen in a long time. New positions, there was a request for 2 new positions in the Sheriff's Department, the reclassification of 2 existing positions in the Prosecutor's Office and Equalization Office. Again, information is for that. Those associated annualized costs are in the section heading staffing requests. Capital, there's a significant amount of capital. Commissioner Connor identified that a little bit. In this budget, the Drain Commissioner requested a vehicle. We don't know that that's going to be received within 2022, so we've also included it in the 2023 budget. If we get it in 2022, we won't then duplicate that expenditure in 2023. It's just for budgeting purposes, and we will only purchase that once. Information technology is requesting $50,000 to replace a quarter of the county's technology inventory, $50,000 to purchase Microsoft volume licenses to bring our version of Offices from 2016 to 2023, and then $40,000 to replace the aerial photos, which were last taken in 2019. They're also requesting $75,000 to replace approximately 200 telephone handsets and 10 telephone switches. Planning and zoning has requested $30,000 to replace a vehicle that is aged and experiencing mechanical problems. All of our vehicles are run. Miles isn't such an issue, it's age. We have vehicles that are 2012, 2013, 2016 model vehicles that are still in our fleet. And we continue to run those until they cost us more than they're worth to keep, and we move them on. Sheriff's Department requested $124,000 from vehicle to replace 2 marked patrol vehicles. It continues their cycle. $116,000 from capital to fund or to upgrade 33 tasers from the X2 to the T7 model. And then $25,000 to purchase headsets that are compatible with the new radios for the SRT, the Special Response Team. $29,000 from Vehicle Fund to replace or purchase a light-duty pickup truck to haul the dive trailer and boats. And then an additional $40,000 from the Vehicle Replacement Fund to purchase a boat to replace 2 existing aging boats. And the jail has requested just shy of $240,000 from Building Rehabilitation Fund for upgrades to the existing building. $77,000 for 31 security windows at the jail. When that facility was built, when we talk about security windows, these are the windows that are in the cells, and they are not of a security grade to today's levels and continue to cause problems with inmates trying to dig their way through them, damage them. So the jail has thought through a plan on how we might address that. The $77.5 is only a budgeted amount. It's not a bid amount at this point. $30,000 to upgrade and relocate the video and add a video conference rooms with soundproof booths. We do a lot of, or the jail and courts do a lot of video arraignment type work now. This allows requires that inmates don't have to be transported back and forth, but we don't have the appropriate technology or space down there to fully accommodate that. So this would enhance that. $100,000 to install a partition in the large multi-purpose room and add a hallway for those that have been down and been through the jail. This has been talked about for a few years. I think that we've seen it at least 1 year, if not 2 years now on the budget. They have held off in anticipation of trying to figure out if a building is going to be in the future. It's a significant investment. They've also requested $15,000 to relocate and expand the property room, and then some additional to do some work out in the with regard to the lighting in the parking lots. And then lastly, Building and Grounds has requested $40,000 from Building Rehab to replace the outdated HVAC controls in this building. And then you can listen to our considering Commission on Aging's request.
Can I ask a question now on these items?
Sure.
Rather than waiting
Go
till
ahead.
the end? Thank you. The 29,338 for vehicle replacement fund to purchase a light-duty pickup truck to haul the drive trailer and boats. Didn't we just transfer a vehicle from emergency management to the marine team for that purpose of hauling the boats?
You know, we did, and I.
It probably happened after they submitted their budget.
That's a question, I guess I'll put the sheriff on the spot. I don't have an answer if that has satisfied that need or not.
Okay, and then the other one, what is the security programming chair? It says
Yeah, I wondered.
5,600 from the capital replacement fund to purchase a security programming chair to allow for safe and secure visitations with inmates.
No, we don't have capital punishment in Michigan.
I don't know what it is.
No, that's, I believe what he's talking about, we've been talking about putting in,
Numbers.
visitation where you can visit online, so where people don't have to drive back and forth. I believe that's what he's talking about with that, right there.
A security programming chair.
So it's more of a secure, like, almost like a Zoom room? Like where you have, it's dedicated to online
Right, you can have a
conversations?
private conversation with the little ones. We're also working on right now getting, we're getting rid of one of our companies that we've been working with for a few years. Got a new one that's up and coming, and that's to do with, texting, to be able to text back and forth. And it's not like what you guys actually charge per text on these, but it's something, another way to reach out to people outside, because they're supposed to have so many, you're supposed to have so many hours of visitation each week, and, or I should say hours, so you're supposed to allow a visitation each week, and it's up to a half an hour. Does this, it expands it, and I'm not sure exactly what he's talking about with that chair there, but I think that's what he's referring to.
Would you check on that?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Ben.
Contingency in this budget, I have not included a contingency. There's an anticipated excess of funds, and they have just been projected to go into fund balance. We have maintained the same level of fund balance over the years. The board may choose to use those in a different fashion. Those are certainly unauthorized or unallocated funds. So if the board wanted to allocate those in some fashion, but again, I just continue to emphasize that wages are the single biggest pressure I think that we're dealing with right now. Pension liabilities, I'll just be real brief there. Our last audit, the auditor talked a little bit of both our pension liabilities and our OPEB. Pension liabilities continue to be an area that we work on. We're in the 80% funded range for our pension, but we still do have significant pension liability that we continue to work through paying down. Our OPEB has been changed from a liability to a defined contribution style, and that's been implemented. So now it's just a matter of allowing the existing plan to what I call tail out, and then any existing funds that are left in that could go toward paying down the additionally paying down the pension liability. Debt, we do not have any general funded primary government debt at this point. The Courts and Law building was our last one, and we paid that off a year or so ago. The fund balances, we maintain in excess of 75 separate budgetary funds, each having their own fund balances. We try to monitor those as appropriate and make sure that there are appropriate fund balances. And then the American Rescue Plan Act funds we have been working on. We collectively as a board, you're aware that about half of those funds, maybe just slightly over half, have been committed. The other half continue to, let me back up. The other half we've received and are in our ARP Act fund awaiting some determination by the board. We have the federal government modified the rules in the final ruling to allow communities to take a standard allocation on the ARP funds for lost revenue. We had calculated our lost revenue at somewhere in the $3.2 million. The federal government said that you can just take a standard $10 million allocation. We had to make that decision. We elected that right at the beginning. And what that does, the board does not need to use those for lost revenue. They can use them and assign them to projects like they did the first. But it does free up what's left should the board want to have more flexibility to use those as lost revenue. So, for example, the Road Commission, they have purchased with theirs, I think it was two trucks. So they were able to use that lost revenue to purchase a couple of trucks. When I say trucks, the big ones. I'm happy to go through the budget in detail. What you will ultimately have to consider and adopt is the resolution that's located on pages 11 through 13. That will be what we're asking the board, ideally at the end of October, to hold a public hearing on and adopt. And then beginning on page 14 are all the detailed numbers associated with the budget. I'll stop for just a minute, take a breath, and ask if there's any questions or if you'd like me to go through the
Questions or comments from commissioners? Doesn't seem the board has any wish at this time to go through line by line. Any questions or comments related to the budget process or the budget overall?
I would just note that we are a little bit later than normal. I would have liked to have been in front of you a few meetings ago, and it's just my schedule, and I'll own that one if you may. So, but my apologies. I do get that for some of you, particularly that are veterans of this, might be saying, "Hey, we're maybe a couple of meetings later than normal," and that is correct.
On the scheme of things, we're going to pass a budget by the end of the year, well ahead of when the deadline is. but I appreciate you acknowledging that. What does the board wish to do on the appeals? Do we want to mull it over for a week, or are we ready to go ahead with one or two of them? Sounds like there's kind of some consensus on funding half of the EDA proposal.
Thirds, wasn't it? I'm sorry, 2/3, right?
I would make a motion to fund 12,000 for 2 interns of the, is that right? 12,000 for 2 interns for the EDA request.
Support.
So motion by Jackson, supported by Smelker, to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of the EDA grant appeal in the amount of $12,000. Any further discussion? I believe we don't, hold on.
Okay.
I believe we don't need to recommend this, so it's just, if there's
Don't have to
no,
go to the full
it
board.
does not have to go to the full board. So if there's no objection, the motion will be changed to approval of the EDA grant appeal in the amount of $12,000. Do you approve?
No objection.
No objection. Discussion? Vivian?
I'm going to vote no. I'm going to vote no on this because these are non-mandated, and we have some big issues, and when our millage for the jail didn't pass, I'm just looking at these non-mandated, and also because of our wage issue. I think that I feel for the board next year with some of these issues. I think it's a very real concern in order to keep some of our dedicated people here. So I'm going to vote no.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, the question before the committee is approval of the EDA appeal in the amount of $12,000. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Campbell.
Yes.
Benner? No. Getty?
Aye.
Aye.
Jackson?
Aye.
Smelker?
Aye.
Aye, the motion carries. I'd like to think some more on the COA one. We all made valid points, you know. What's the precedent going to be? There's quite a bit to think about. But we'll have a decision by the end of when we vote on a final budget.
Yeah, so thinking out a little bit, the schedule would be to hold a budget hearing, a public hearing, at the October 28th meeting, so the end of the month.
We can come to a decision by next week.
Okay. We could,
Commissioners agree?
Yeah, I got one other thing I'd like to talk about.
Yeah.
I see in the agreed
Positions
approved
list?
positions, on the sheriff's department there, I was reading through that, and I see written on there, and I don't disagree with anything on that, but we voted for a 3rd detective. And I don't see that on there. And if it's not on there, I don't know if we need it, so I think we should take it back off and just deal with the 2 that we have. Is it on there, Dar?
Bigger
No, I mean
question
on
is,
this
do we
list.
have 3 detectives right now?
Do we have 3 detectives right now?
We don't have manpower for 3 detectives right now. That's what, we're down 3 deputies right now.
Deputies, but
I'm
we okayed a detective, and that was never put on, right? We still just have 2. The 3rd detective.
No, we do not have the manpower to put that 3rd one on. We have court demands and law enforcement demands out there. No, we have not been able to put that 3rd.
Well, that's why we funded it, so we could hire somebody, right?
Yes, but we haven't been able to find anybody to hire. That's what our problem is right now. Everybody's struggling hiring full-time officers everywhere it's across
So, yeah, okay. Well, I say we don't fund it then.
Want to make a motion?
I have a question. So when we did the third, because looking on your approved FTE positions for the, by department, a lieutenant detective, a sergeant detective, and a deputy sheriff detective, I see 3 in this list. So does that mean you need 2 more besides that, or just 1 more? Because you haven't hired one of them.
Yeah, here's 3. They don't have them.
We used to have, when I first started, 2005 in that corner office there, we'd have 20, 30 applicants at any given time. We've got 0. And it's been really hard to find people who want to do this type of work. One of the detectives I lost was one of the cases, and bring it up in a public meeting like this, but he said he got tired of watching the dark web children being raped and listening to it, so he couldn't handle it anymore. So this is what the detectives go through, and part of the reason why we need that third detective, because those are hard to investigate. So we got we're short-staffed just about on every shift right now. That one guy just finished field training, got another one who's about a month out of finishing up with his field training, so that'll get us a little more caught up, but we're still be down 3 deputies that we have to hire. Asking for is be patient with us so we can find people to hire so we can fill those positions. We got 1 more in Millville that we haven't been able to fill. So, again, it's just, we're not getting applicants. Every now and then we'll get an applicant, but it's not somebody we want to put out on the road here.
Go ahead.
But the 2 positions that you're requesting are court positions.
Right, that's one of our big draws is court. There's
Oh,
times when they
there.
got courts running.
Thanks for coming up to the microphone.
I think you were the only commissioner back then, but years ago, when we had Deputy Winnick, he was retired out of the city of Hastings. He started working part-time in the courts. He got injured. He was there for 10 years. He got injured. And then I went and hired another part-timer to put in there, and the union filed a grievance. So back then, I did not get support from the board. They said, well, geez, this should be a full-time position. Well, it's 10 years we've had this part-time. So went back to a full-time position. So a little bit of history on that, just get you a little caught up. But anyhow, now we've got, at any given time, we could have 5 courts going. And on days, we only have 4 deputies on. So every now and then, I'll go fill in like a circuit court or something like that, which doesn't bother me. But it's when we pull those deputies, a lot of time there's nobody out there out on the streets for us. So we pull all those deputies off the road to go fulfill the courts, what they have going on. So that's why we asked for a couple more court officers.
When we pull people off the road, do we have a road patrol grant? Can we pull them off the road?
Yes, we can, but yeah, the 416 grant is what you're thinking on, but
Okay.
yeah, that's just one person.
Okay.
On the list of staffing, where is the deputy that was hired for the election fraud investigation?
He's in with the
which one?
detectives.
He is a detective?
Mm-hmm.
So is that detective position reflected in the current staffing schedule that the board has in front of it?
Let me see.
Is he the deputy detective?
Right,
He's on there.
because that's what we lost was a deputy detective.
So that
So
is,
how many cases does this new deputy handle?
Let me tell you,
Are you new deputy or new detective?
that's
Did you
detective.
just say that was the new deputy or detective? No, the new detective is.
Both the deputy
He's a
detective.
deputy and detective.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, they don't get any extra pay as a deputy for a detective spot.
When we added that detective,
Right.
it was because the sheriff department and the prosecutor needed more help to do the court system, investigating for court cases.
Yeah, it was like
Yes,
for murder.
we got hammered a couple of years ago. We got hammered pretty hard with some pretty big cases.
So with this deputy that we added, how many cases does he handle?
He's just assigned to the one because it's that big. Right now, I bet you we got 5 ring binders full of information that we're going to be presenting here one of these days. So it is huge.
Is Travis considered a detective?
Who?
Travis Moore.
No, it's a canine handler.
How many cases do the other detectives handle?
I'm not sure right off the top of my head right now.
Is one vacant?
Yeah, we have one vacancy in that
Detectives is
detective
vacant?
spot.
Which one is it, the sergeant or the lieutenant?
What do you mean, lieutenant? No, it would have been a sergeant and 2 detectives. That's what it would have been.
I'm just looking at the approved list in the budget. It says sheriff, undersheriff, lieutenant detective, sergeant detective.
That lieutenant detective should not be detective. It should be just lieutenant.
So we only have 2 detectives.
Right now, we got 2. One working in a huge case.
And is one vacant? One
Yes,
of
we
the
have
positions are
one
vacant?
vacancy there, yes.
Is that,
Hopefully, we'll have that filled here in a couple weeks, get that one filled and get that ball rolling.
which one is that? Which
The
one's the
second de-
vacancy?
The detective, the one that you approved.
Yeah, I have a question on that because I don't see that posting on the website. Is that an error? Should that position opening be posted on the county website? Because I see a corrections deputy that has been posted, open until full, and then the others are from other departments. So I guess
I'm not sure what you're talking about there.
I'm on berrycounty.org, and I'm looking for seeing what positions we're offering to the public. And I do see a corrections deputy, but I don't see the detective. So do you consider that position filled, or do you consider that position
Yeah,
vacant?
we have somebody picked for that position already.
What's that mean?
For which position?
But you just asked about the detective.
So it's filled?
Yeah.
Okay.
We've got somebody picked already. There's going to be some training involved coming up.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not something you just go throw somebody in there and just say, here you go, go do detective work.
Position that the Board of Commissioners added has been filled.
Well, yes, we've got somebody picked. They're not doing that work yet. That's Rose is the one who's going to be coming into the detective spot. She's still working up at Middleville.
Okay.
We've got 2 that are with field training. I'm sorry, 1 just finished field training. We got another one doing field training, and then we'll be able to fill that up. So we're getting there.
So what happened when we approved a detective to help out with cases to get them through the court system? We ended up hiring a detective to just do election investigation.
That was already work. We were already working on that when you approved that.
He was a detective at that time? Then you had 3 back then?
No, we had just the 2 because the one was leaving, and the one left in I want to say June, something like that.
Did he leave just the detective spot and he is still employed as something
No,
else?
no, he went to a whole nother career.
Oh,
That's
this
the
is
one I was referring to.
the one that you referred to earlier about the dark web
Right.
monitoring?
No, when you get these big cases, and what we do is you do search warrants on their cell phones, and it's horrible what people have on their cell phones. And again, he couldn't handle it anymore. So, and it's not uncommon. Kent County lost one up there too for the same reasons. Mm-hmm.
So I guess the question that John may have, and one I have, is does that need still exist?
Yes, it does.
But you are unable to fill the need because we are lacking
staff,
lacking interested applicants. I heard you say
Right.
earlier you're having trouble getting applicants. But the position isn't posted on the website. Are you accepting applications for people that want to become detective?
That's internal. The union stuff you got with that too. So what you do is you hire a deputy, and then from within, because you want somebody to have some experience, and then then we'll go within the union there to see who wants to be a detective, and then we'll assign somebody from that. It's not somebody that doesn't have any experience that should be a detective unless they've got some unique abilities.
So you've got one detective doing the voter fraud, and you've got another detective that's handling all the court cases. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so I got that one, Rose is also handling some cases and working up in Middleville.
But she's not a detective yet.
She's been picked for the position, but we haven't been able to move her yet down to the detective spot. The actual down in the
Because she doesn't
basement area.
have the training?
Well, she's going to get training. She's got experience. So there's other training she's going to have coming up, and we work on that.
Okay.
That's not uncommon at all.
All right.
Do you anticipate needing additional resources for the election fraud investigation?
I'm hoping we're coming to an end on it here pretty soon. And we did get some other sheriffs on board, working on getting the state to start kicking in on it also.
Any other questions for the sheriff? All right, thank you, Sheriff.
All right. Reality that should have been a task force November 4th, 2020. There should have been a task force of law enforcement handling that right off the get-go. There's a lot to it, and it's very, very technical, and a lot of moving around. My opinion of the clerks are safe. I'll get to that later. I'll give you an update later on it.
What does that mean? Your
I
opinion
don't
of
think the
clerks are
clerks didn't do anything wrong in my county. I don't think so. So.
Okay.
Well, really, you don't think there was an election fraud in Berry County?
Now you're going to get me a little bit technical. No, I don't think there's anything that anybody did here in Berry County that would constitute election fraud. However, there's communications that we're looking at between a county and other entities that are very, very suspect.
How does that fall in our jurisdiction, though?
It's called ledger laws. And
I'm not familiar with that.
all right, well, we'll get to that. There's also looking at some RICO and all that other stuff. So.
Great. Thank you, Sheriff.
I personally think we're wasting money there.
Well, list the Board of
And
Commissioners.
I think that detective should be taken back off.
The position was added for a specific reason to
It was,
alleviate
it's not being fulfilled.
the court burden for particularly heinous crimes.
And we ended up hiring someone to investigate stuff outside of our county.
Listening to the sheriff, he would dispute that.
I have talked face-to-face with the sheriff, and we disputed it then, too, so.
Come on down, we'll show you the stuff that we have.
I read everything you send me, Dar,
Right.
and I think we're wasting taxpayers' money.
Agreed.
And we can do that.
Anything else? We will make a decision on the pending budget appeal next week. Moving ahead, limited public comment. This time, any member of the public wishing to address the board may do so for up to 3 minutes.
I thought you guys would be done by now, so I gave my comment to Commissioner Jackson in case I didn't make it back in time. Joel Ibbotson, Rutland Township. Please put on your lighthearted cap for this comment. Thank you for shrinking government. It is good when government functions that no longer serve a purpose are eliminated. It is a good thing I am not commissioner, and here is why. If I were on the board, I would nominate Mark Englerth as the cat population specialist, giving him a budget of $71.53. Half of which would be an in-house account at Allen Pete's on Jefferson. The other half would be a gift card to Richie's. I say that to say this, though. I would take that money, the budget, the manpower that, if there is any, that is not being divested to the animal shelter as a result of the action today, and I would devote that to foster care and adoption programs. And I'm not speaking for cats, I'm speaking for kids. We have immediate family who have benefited from that. They were taken out of bad situations and put into situations that they became successful in life on. My wife and I wish to engage in that in foster care and adoption when our kids are older. This is something that rarely a week goes by that it's not a discussion between the two of us. I really hope that we can, normally I would say shrinking of government is good, but if we can change the emphasis, change the resources and the energy that was put towards that, towards something that, in my opinion, is much more noble of a cause, I would actually encourage that. So thanks for your consideration, and to Mark Englerth, I apologize in advance, and I owe you a burger at Richie's.
Thank you. Is there further public comment?
Forgot to mention this in the first public comment, that our RMS has gone live, and we've gone through the hiccups that normal RMS, going from one RMS to another RMS. We will be able to communicate a lot better with 911, and that's gone live here. So, and also the portables, just give you a little heads up, we are having a little bit of difficulty with the portables themselves, especially on the west side of the county that we're working the bugs out. So you should be aware of that. So thanks.
Thank you. Is there further public comment? Hearing none, we'll move ahead to commissioners' comments. Does any commissioner have a comment they'd like to share with the board?
I was invited, as well as with John, to attend a presentation put on by Joel Ibbotson and Aaron Gross in Freeport, going over some of the information he talked about with an election investigation in Berry County, very detailed, very unemotional, being married to a clerk for probably 10 years, with some good information to debate back and forth with her on the potential for election fraud. My conclusion was the same, is that there was no election fraud in Berry County, that our clerks do a great job. Pam Palmer does a great job. And he basically, through numbers and investigation, showed what I think most of us knew already. So it was a good presentation. It wasn't out to get anybody. It wasn't emotional. It was all fact-based, which I appreciate Joel and Aaron putting together. So,
thank you. Anybody else?
I attended the 911 meeting last month, and it was brought up that the police went online with their new computer, R&M records,
I think.
yeah, and there is a tremendous amount of work to do on that to get it to work right, and it probably will take somewhere between 6 months and a year at 911 to get all of the bugs out of it.
So, if I may, what does this system do? Is it an interface between deputies on the road, people accessing lien?
It was supposed to, I don't know about lien, but when, help me out here, Dar, you and I disagree on election, but this was so your deputies on the road could do accident reports and traffic tickets and everything online, right?
Yes, it would automatically, when we're out there, rather than, we used to do there's four copies of a traffic citation. We'd have to go out and buy this great big old case of traffic citations. Now we can go on in and one of the problems we had with writing them by hand is there potential mistakes. Now what we do is we take their driver's license, run it through a little reader. All the information is filled in on those fields. We make a copy off a printer right there inside the car, and you can hand them a copy, and then we keep a copy for our records. So that's what it's supposed to do, is improve that, speed that up. A normal traffic stop would take between 10 and 15 minutes, and we're going to see how fast we can get them done now. Hopefully we can reduce that amount of time. And then the records management, the part with the dispatch is that we have a better communication with them. So it's like one big records management system. So if Vivian calls for help some night, we go on out there. Dispatch already has her information in the system. So we go on out there, and when we start dealing with Vivian, rather than having to re-put that information in, it already populates that field for us. And it speeds everything on up. It also takes the human error out of it. And
just for the record, I'm sure there's nothing in Central Dispatch's records of Vivian having a problem.
Oh, I've had some problems out where I live.
But
where the problem comes into that, when we migrate them systems, let's take something that's popular, let's say Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
Walmart has approximately 12 different addresses. Yeah, M37, M-37, M.37, and whatever was put into their system comes up at 911, and every reason why that police department was there goes in under the address that's put in. So now we have to migrate all them addresses at 911 into our system. And when it comes in there now, it has shut our CAD down. And it takes a lot. So
there's a lot of...
It was not a smooth, is not a smooth transition. But when this was paid for, Zerker,
Right.
Central Square, promised some things that they didn't have. Am I correct?
Yes, they sold us some things they didn't even have written yet.
And
oh, yeah.
So that was, the deliverables were not delivered.
So,
well, what had happened with Zerker is they're having the same problem everybody else is having, is keeping employees too. That's another problem. But they bought, was it 3 or 4 different records management systems and tried putting them together to make it work. When the system's done, it'll be a lot smoother. I talked to Clinton County, and they have this system, and they seem to like it. And again, like he was saying, when you start entering things in, it isn't just Walmart, it's every address in the county that we've ever been called to.
every cross street.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So
Every alternate spelling of
Yes.
every cross street.
Yes,
So,
and that goes with names,
it's going
addresses.
to take a long time.
So in Woodland Township, Carlton Center Road, and M43.
There you go, yes.
And it's a nightmare.
And then we had to go in and enter all the codes that the state and the federal government require. And like a 1301 is an assault and battery. Those got to all be entered into the system. And yeah, so there's a lot of work. A lot of work's been done to it already.
And there should have been more before they were integrated. But now that it's in there, they are cleaning it up as they go along when Sheriff's Department gets dispatched. And it's not just Sheriff's Department either.
No, it's Berry Township, Prairieville Township, Freeport, Nashville.
And they all got multiple addresses.
And you got multiple people who've come and gone through the years through the records management systems, yeah. So it's also going to clean it up inside the jail too, because it'll be all consistent through, and it'll clean it up when it goes out to prosecutors and the courts, so.
Who bears the responsibility to make up for that gap? So is the 911 dispatch, are they going to have to allocate additional resources to cleaning up the database for what wasn't provided but was what was supposed to be provided?
911 is going to do it, so the equipment will work right, yes. And
There's a
we have-
theory in computer programming that adding additional companies to a program that's already behind actually increases the amount of time. So probably this is the fastest route to cleaning up the system. It's just central dispatch has got to pick at it a little bit at a time.
Yeah, they got somebody assigned to it out there. I've got 2 assigned to it inside the sheriff's office. And we've always had people assigned to the records management system, so. All right.
Great. Well, thank you, Sheriff. Any other comments from commissioners? Hearing none, the committee will now adjourn. Committee's adjourned.
Wait a minute, too late.
Out of here.
Disappearing.